Okay, I am back. Hello, Kev Kendrick. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. All right, and now we get into product. So, this is now a section that I am assuming everyone has already watched what I just talked about, which is Koth as a format and like the basic cookie cutter way to play Koth. And now I'm going to talk about the specifics of product, like positioning and things of that nature. So, I don't know the best way to go about this. Let's actually do take a page out of the 5CP book and kind of go from one side of the map to the other, even though there's only one point, and start with breaking out of a forward hold, go into like an approach maybe, and then go into where you position on even Ubers, or rather Disad even Ubers. We'll get there. So first things first, breaking out of a forward hold. Generally speaking, if their demo is cliffside, trapping cliffside, you really don't want to go there as a team. Usually, the bread and butter, you can come main, you can come grass. Actually, callouts first. Yeah, we're going to do callouts first, since it's a map review. So, this whole area is pretty much just called spawn. This area over here is called grass. Now keep in mind, this is the only map in the game, well, the only competitive map that has like messed up symmetry, where instead of symmetry about a point, it's symmetry about a line. So grass is on the left side if you're on blue team, but if you're on red team, it's on the right side. So weird little thing to note. Yeah, you have grass, which leads up to this area called concrete, which connects to this connector called connector. And this is kind of the flank designated area. Right, and then, of course, grass. This is main. You have the house. This little area here connecting to the point gets called Japan. And then the house, this bats area up here is not called bats, actually. It's called China. And then this door and this whole region, even extending over here, is just cliff. Of course, you have like the cliff pack and the grass pack. This rock up here is a place that pocket soldiers will like to stand. This gets called Pride, or like Pride Rock. You have the point with the lanes. You have the right lane or the left lane, which are going to be flipped, ironically enough. But you could call it connector side and dog bread. Whoops, little Easter egg in here for why it's called dog bread. Or maybe it came after the fact. Regardless, you have the point itself, you have the rock. What else is there? You have house. I like to call this area slope. This wide area next to cliff that you walk up. Base cliff as well, I think, is a call for something around here. This area gets called pocket as well. These are more like Highlander. Pocket, I guess, still works in 6s, but some of these are like Highlander comms. I don't know all the Highlander callouts that much. Like, there's probably like these boxes probably have a specific callout because this is a common sniper spot, which we'll get to later. But if it's a box, you can call it a box. Yeah, so that's it for callouts. Now let's talk about breaking the forward hold. Pick up where we were leaving off there. So, bread and butter are usually going to be main or grass side, and this is a forward hold that teams will like to play a pyro to bust. So having usually a scout, I believe, switch pyro, although scout or soldier doesn't matter too much. It's nice to bomb soldiers through, so a scout could be nice. But Basically, the pyro is here to reflect rockets back at the soldiers, and then you can like bomb a soldier through for space, or if they're still close, bomb on the med or whatever. But having a pyro to reflect spam is a good way to get through grass. And then getting through main as well is a nice option, even though you still can eat the same rocket spam from soldiers forward holding, and it actually can be trapped still from the demo cliff. It's still an acceptable door to get through. So that's as far as breaking a forward hold goes. And it's important to make sure you're not getting shoved behind. So I actually, as a demo, when my team was playing product, would like to just play back and watch traps, and then only when my team got through would I follow them. But it can really be any class. If you want your demo peeking for spam, then you could totally just have any other player, like a soldier or a scout, watching behind. But it's important that someone on the team is doing that. So yeah, something to figure out or talk about with your team. So we've busted the forward hold. Now let us talk about an approach. So it's going to happen pretty often where your team gets forced back. Either you lose too many players and have to leave, or whatever situation. So to get back to the point where you can fight for the point, you need to actually approach. So usually the go-to approach is slope, just because it's pretty wide, and a lot less constricted to like a Japan. Concrete as well is just like spam central. Like this is a perfect arc to just be lobbing pipes down. It can be very tough to approach. So slope is kind of your go-to. If you are planning to approach specifically just to exchange and get Ubers out of the way immediately, then cliff can work as well. Slope is still fine for that, but cliff, you can drop down with your Uber for that exchange. That totally works as well. Yeah, but that's for approaching the point as like a combo. Of course, your flank's going to be on the flank. And then as far as playing Disad goes, your heals, you need to make sure your heals aren't caught to an Uber when they have Uber. So if you're planning to like four-man or whatever, trying to think. Basically, heals like back here are pretty safe, ready to leave. I'd say like crossing the line of China is already kind of pushing it. Like here, you're definitely, let me actually see, because I've caught some medics in my day. I'm trying to imagine like where they are and aren't caught. Yeah, generally, like if you're already back here, which was, yeah, pretty much about where I was standing, you can usually kite a bomb. Of course, like if they're already across point, then you're going to need to give more space. But for where a team would normally be when they're trying to aggress with Uber, that's a pretty safe place to be. So, what next? As far as Disad positioning on other classes, there isn't really any, just because if they have Uber, you're probably just playing to like stall the point, or four-man, or some combination of the both, or of the two. Usually a combination of the two. So it's, yeah, it's really a matter of just like preserving your buff for the four-man or just delaying the point. But it's pretty similar to an evens hold, which I'll talk about later, maybe next actually. It's kind of in between like an evens and a Disad type of hold, where you're somewhat with your med to where you can still get healed a little bit, but able to like contest, I suppose. But I don't think that'll last very long, because you should just be four-manning probably. But in the meantime, where if you can stall point, if you have it, then yeah. If you don't have point and it's Disad, then you don't want to be approaching. Yeah, that Disad positioning really only applies when you get pushed back while having control of the point, right? Because they're approaching with their ad. You have to back up to play your heals safely. But if it's Disad in the sense that your med died and like your team wiped and you're out, they have the point, then in that case, your med's probably not going to be going any further than like a cliff. If you're staging your four-man there, or main or something, they're probably not entering much at all. They're just getting somewhere where they can buff players. And then your players can sack and they back up and continue building Uber. Yeah. So, as for even Uber's holds, the basic positioning of the players is going to be combo, usually in like medic around this area, ready to kite wherever. Like this whole general region a medic could feasibly be. And demo is going to be in that general vicinity as well, but largely on the dog bread side of points. So that could be left or right, depending on what team you're on. But demo will very easily rotate over between the points, depending on what's happening. And then pocket scout, a similar deal, but you have the added benefit of being able to go on top of rock, which is a very nice position to be in. And then flank scout sort of plays as like a second combo scout, in the sense that sure, they are still in the flank. You want to make sure you have control of connector and aren't letting players behind there. But you can totally come over to point and like fight on the connector side of point. And flank scouts will get healed pretty comparably to a pocket scout on this map. So you kind of play like a sort of double combo scout type of deal on product. And then roamer, you're going to be playing connector side. High ground is useful on soldier in general, and then you're going to be sustaining yourself off this pack, trying to avoid getting unnecessary arrows and heals and stuff when you don't need to. Pocket soldier, same deal, but like right side. Pride is going to be a nice place for you to be, and you're going to be sustaining yourself off of the cliffside pack. So let's talk about, so that's like positioning for even Ubers. Let's talk about some like strategizing. So obviously if you just play the spam game, that's not often going to be enough to just straight up cap the point. Sometimes you need more than that. So like aggression across point can be quite nice. And as a demo as well, like keep in mind, you don't have to see where they're at to shoot at them. If you just have like a decent idea of where they're at, then you can still hit them over the rock, which is going to be a pretty reliable way to get damage on the combo. But bombing soldiers can be useful as well. Like think of it as like a mid-fight plan as well. When they have the point, you might not want to be like committing. It really depends on what you want to do, actually. I think it's totally fine. But yeah, you can do like skip bombs over pride. You can shove your flank behind through connector, get a guy behind. A guy behind, like a soldier behind, can be quite useful for capping the point, just because it like divides attention, eases things up on the front lines a little bit, and plus like if they aren't being contested behind, then they get to like recommit from behind for like a pinch in coordination with aggression in front, which can be quite nice. Plus, like, if you can just get a pick, that immediately makes capping the point way easier. So if your flank is trying to shove to get a pick, like, by all means, that works. If their demo is, like, really aggro on point and you want to land a soldier on them to kill them, because your demo has to, like, back up so they don't just feed, then, yeah, totally works too. But all the plays should just be focused. Like, keep in mind that if you don't have the point there, like, you should be prioritizing getting that point and making those plays so that that is what is happening. Because you can get your guy behind, bomb, force their medic, yada yada. Like your med gets forced, but like you get a pick with it or something. Like none of that ultimately will matter if you don't get the point. So keep in mind like what it's actually all about at the end of the day. Okay. So that's even Ubers without the point. Now with the point, it's going to be the same positioning. But your kind of game plan, your state of mind should be different, where you might be less incentivized to shove things. You might be less incentivized to just like be bombing soldiers into them, because you might be more prioritized just holding on, keeping everyone healthy, stopping what they're doing. Of course, if they're like feeding, and then by all means like punish them for that. But basically what I'm saying here is you don't have to do anything to hold, like to be in a good spot, because by virtue of holding the point, you are already in a decent position. So it's all about like what can you do. Like if you can disrupt them with aggression so that you hold the point for longer, then you're happy because you're holding it for longer. But that won't always be the case, and just chilling out and just stopping what they're trying to do can totally be working as well. So yeah, same positioning for that. What else is there? We talked about four-mans. We talked about trying to cap the point. Let us talk about a forward hold. So if you kill enough of them or force them out and everyone's healthy and you think you can get into this fast enough, if you kill them, of course, you usually can get into it fast enough, then you can go into a forward hold. So the way it works is demo is going to be cliffside and just trapping this up with flank scout cliffside as well to support them. And then the remainder of the two medics and the soldiers and the combo scout are going to be grass. And the soldiers can be stuffing left side and shooting into main. And then combo scout can be trying to shoot any bombers or just support them. As a demo, after you trap this up, you can as well trap up main. And if they're trying to bust main, then you can also be like rotating spam to it. You just have to watch out that when you're looking at main, this is not being watched and a player can shove you. It's just something to look out for. But basically, like, right side is being hard, or excuse me, cliff side is being hard held by the demo. Grass side is being hard held by the soldiers. And then main is being held by some combination of the two. Mostly soldiers, but some demo contribution as well. And that's the forward hold. Totally fine to just leave whenever you want. If they get players through the doors, you should just leave, because your main objective was to waste time. And if they have to pause, like realize what's going on, or play spam in the doorways in order to get through, congrats, like you've wasted some time. So that is the forward hold, and now we get to the fun part, because I've already talked about kind of all the normal positioning stuff, but there's been a big asterisk, and that's been assuming no sniper. This is a map where teams will run full-time sniper, or quote-unquote full-time sniper, because there's some situations sniper is actually not very useful. But I'm going to talk more about how to actually play against that sniper. So first and foremost, when is a good time to run sniper? And sniper as a class obviously demands a ton of respect to sightlines, and product has many sightlines that you have to respect. So you have to keep that in mind. Man, losing my train of thought. But sniper doesn't, like, you can't really push and contribute that much. He just locks down sightlines. So people can still adequately defend the point without peeking a sniper, usually. And for that reason, sniper is not very good when you're trying to cap the point. Just because of that fact, it's going to be difficult to push the point with that sniper. I should add as well, there's like a lot of discussion over which class should play sniper. Most people are in the camp of well, pretty much everyone's in agreement that you should play it with a soldier, just because, like, two scouts, this is such a strong map for scouts that having two scouts is very valuable. I understand that argument. I kind of agree with that argument. It makes sense. I personally don't think it really matters that much, because having a second soldier is also quite nice to have. But yeah, like sometimes you'll see a team that will have a scout that wants to snipe, and they put their scout on sniper, and then they have a soldier switch to scout, which you totally could do if you wanted, but if that soldier's better off on soldier, I think you're just better off with them on soldier. I don't think it matters too much who's on sniper between soldier and scout. Anyway, that was a quick little aside. Yeah, so sniper is usually best for when you're trying to hold the point, when you already have the point and you're just trying to stop their efforts to cap, because sniper is a very, very strong defensive class, just locking down any aggressive efforts they have by not only being able to see the point, but being able to see like players trying to pressure the point. And while you might be able to just bunker down and avoid sight lines and deny the cap, you can't really do that and secure the cap. So oftentimes against a sniper, your game plan, because keep in mind, at the end of the day, it is always, always, always about when you don't have the point, cap it as fast as possible, and when you do have the point, hold it for as long as possible. So usually the fastest way to get that cap, or at least in a position where you get to fight for it, is to address the sniper situation. And that's oftentimes going to be with soldiers. Soldiers are kind of the big class that's going to stop snipers by just bombing into them, either by bombing behind first, usually by bombing behind first, and then getting aggressive and bombing onto them, or yeah, just soldiers are the ones that close the gap. They're good ways to get soldiers behind. Of course, when you take an exchange, which you're going to want to be doing anyway when you're trying to cap the point, you know, get those Ubers out of the way. That gives a good pretext to like bomb a guy behind. Just shoving flank is quite nice. Basically, as a combo, you are kind of stuck. You don't want to be peeking the sniper. And you're just kind of relying on other people to take care of it, namely soldiers. You can counter snipe as well, and then that works as well, I suppose. But yeah, the sniper poses a big problem a lot of the time, and sometimes it can be hard to try and cap the point while the sniper's alive. So getting soldiers on them is kind of the go-to, whether that be, you know, just bombing directly into them or bombing players behind. Sometimes teams will play a guy with the sniper specifically to defend them against a soldier trying to get on them. And if that's the case, then that means that they're not only like one player down for actually like holding and watching things on the sniper, but kind of two down, because they have usually like a flank scout with the sniper as well, in which case definitely look to abuse the flank and maybe like get a pick on if the roamer is like still on roamer, maybe try and kill them or what have you. But yeah, definitely trying to abuse the flank in circumstances like that. Was that really all I had to say about sniper? Because this map can very much feel like just the sniper map sometimes. Yeah, look out for angles, even on like the walk up, even on the approaches. Like angles like this means you have to be clearing cliff before you walk through it. Yeah, it can be brutal, but it's really all about figuring out which sight lines exist and avoiding them as like an important class, and like actually coordinating soldier aggression and bombs to get on the sniper and deal with the problem. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else to talk about on product. I think I covered all the bases there. I did talk about sniper. Some people do run other off classes as well. Like the other big one would be heavy, like a heavy on cliff defensively. For if they try to start pressuring the point, you can peek the heavy, and it can just be really brutal to try and bomb into the heavy as well. So any like bombing ideas for your aggression to cap point get kind of shut down. But usually, I can't even think of like specific counterplay, just because I don't think it's like that great a lot of the time. Usually, like a heavy as a class is usually something that's very easily spammed out. So I would just go with that. Just try and spam out the heavy. Yeah, some people run engineer. I think it's really bad. I don't even think I need to give a specific advice for countering a mini sentry engineer. They're just kind of like down. They just have a worse scout, basically. I will throw an honorable mention to Spy. Because Spy's not very good on this map, just because it's rare that you're going to get good timings for it. But in those cases where, so let's say, let me try and craft a situation. So let's say you lose your flank scout, right? You lose your flank scout, you have control of the point, and being down the guy, you decide you want to still play for the point, still try to stop them from capping, which just down a guy is going to be more uncomfortable for sure than having that flank scout, but it's doable for sure. But let's say things go wrong. Your flank gets shoved and your roamer was too close and died. Now you're down 2, and you try to leave, and a soldier gets a nice bomb and kills, or let's say just forces your medic, right? So, not only forces your medic, but the demo dies as well. So let's take shop at things. Your scout died really early in the fight. By the time that soldier's bombing and killing your demo, that scout's already spawning. That scout could totally, since they're on that early spawn wave, your demo's dead, you know your team's going to want to go for a 4-man, right? Because they now have ad, they have Uber, you just got forced. You know you're not going to go for that 4-man until your demos and soldiers spawn. So you know there's going to be a 4-man, and you know it's going to take a little bit of time. You could take that time to get in position as spy for the 4-man. That would be a very effective use of spy, I think. That applies to like multiple Koth maps. If that's super specific though, it relies on like a very specific timing that isn't gonna come up all that often in game. That was a weird little tangent to end on, I think, but yeah, I think that pretty much covers product. At least all I can think of on product right now. Yeah, I covered the basic positioning, basic game plan, stuff like that. I'm sure there's some specifics I'm missing, but I think that was pretty adequate. So with that, I'm probably going to call it, chop up these 2 VODs, and then publish them. So thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and goodbye.